Welcome to the Digital Dreaming Out of the Ground podcast. I'm your host, Asif Ali. I'm joined today with my co-host, former Fantasy Pros analyst, and obviously fantasy football extraordinaire, Sulman Haque. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, what's going on, dude?
Not much. All right, how's your week? Last time we were on was 4 weeks ago, I think, before preseason started.
Yeah, right before preseason started. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we've had 3 games underneath the Niners belt, so we can kind of really get into it. So. Let's start from the top. Obviously, the last game that we saw on Thursday was just abysmal for the Niners. I mean, Trey was just under duress. The line was not blocking. Even the run game wasn't really getting going either. And I think it's because of the fact that obviously, they're missing Trey, they're missing Mike, and obviously some of the new kind of incoming guys are first year starters on the offensive line. So, kind of what are your takeaways from the preseason game on Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway is this line's a mess, right? And that was something we knew going in, that this line was going to be shaky. And it was always like, man, why didn't Lynch and Shanahan invest in this line? Why didn't they pay the money to like Tomlinson? But I guess they were believers in Aaron Banks. And now apparently Aaron Banks is being challenged by Jason Poe. It's like, dude, come on, you're a second round pick. You're being challenged by an undrafted free agent. Like, what's going on with this guy? So, I mean, it seems like, we'll see. Like, let's not put too much stock into preseason, but if Aaron Banks has an abysmal year, it's another, big time Shanahan miss, and Shanahan believing too much in himself and Lynch believing too much in Shanahan. And that might be a problem this season.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the Niners were penalized. They had 10 penalties for 100 yards versus the Texans, I think 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 penalties for 20 yards. And so the penalties killed them, right? Both offensively and defensively. To your point about the undrafted rookie, that's just kind of the nature of the NFL. We've seen undrafted guys just kind of take the fold and step onto the field. That's actually what I heard the commentators talk about. Some of these undrafted guys might be some of the best prospects. And what we're seeing now is a lot more undrafted free agents make the league as opposed to higher or lottery draft picks, as opposed to years past. But anyways, to your point, I agree. I think that ultimately, obviously Banks has to step up. I don't know if Poe played on Thursday. I'm not sure if I saw him, but it was just,
he didn't play a lot. I don't think he played a lot.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot. So, we can't put too much stock into it. I remember at halftime, Rich Sherm and Tony G and Fitzpatrick were all saying that, you can't put too much stock to this game. But there was a lot. But there are some areas of concern. Obviously, besides the line, Trey obviously was like, there's certain reads. Obviously, he was under duress for a lot of it, but he was not seeing he wasn't progressing as well, as he should have. I think there was one play where I think Kittle was wide open, in the middle of the field, and then he went to the check down and juice check. Nothing wrong with that because juice check was in the flat, and it was a wide open kind of lane for him to just kind of dump the ball off to. But if he had turned his head and just kind of looked off, so, and I think that's going to be. And Sherman made the point, obviously Shanahan's going to mask Trey and help him get better and develop in this offense. So. There may be a lot to be. We may have not. We obviously haven't seen the best of Trey yet. And when the season transpires, Tony and Richard all basically state that they expect Trey to get better. So I think that's promising to some level.
Yeah, I think Trey will get better. I won't put too much stock into this last preseason game in terms of Trey's performance, but obviously I think what's going to be his best friend is going to be just making a quick decision, right?
Right.
Get in the field quick and be just get the ball out or take off, right? You gotta just make that choice, and you gotta make it quick given how kind of shoddy this line is. And he's gonna have to do that quick, and that's gonna take him some time, not having those reps from he played 1.5 games last year.
Yeah.
So not really getting those reps in real time and things like that. That's what he's gonna need. So I think he'll have a pretty slow, first 4 to 5 weeks. And then he's going to start putting it together. But again, it all kind of depends on how that line comes together and gels together. I think the other area of concern is center.
Yeah.
It's dude, you guys knew Alex Mack was possibly retiring and you didn't even look at a center in the draft, or
yeah,
you think about a guy and you think Jake Lockendale is the solution. Who is this guy, man? Where did he come from?
Right.
So he may not be a bad, he may not be a bad player or anything like that, but if you're Kyle Shanahan and hey, my scheme kind of runs through the center, maybe I should go get a guy if Alex Mack is retiring.
Right. And to that point, I was looking at the center free agency market just now. Obviously, Isaiah Wynn is on the market. The Patriots are taking calls for him. I don't think Lynch or Shanahan have expressed any interest in win, but
None.
yeah, I mean, we could definitely use them. But ultimately, I mean, another guy, JC Treader, right? JC
Yeah.
Treader still hasn't been signed.
That's
And
shocking. Like, I'm surprised the Niners haven't just like called the dude up and like, hey, get on in here. Let's get into you in camp. Let's see what you look like. Like, what are they waiting on? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, to me, I thought JC was going to be off the market after we talked about in our last episode. I thought Bucks were going to bring him for a workout and they're going to sign him immediately. But
Yeah.
you know, it sounds like, you know, and he's basically stated from his position that, you know, like if he doesn't get any serious interest, then he's probably going to retire. And I mean, that to me is kind of like a waste of, that would be such a waste of talent if the Niners don't pick him up. You know, obviously, you know, with that said, free agency, he's going to command a lot of money because centers are a hot commodity in the NFL. You know, I was talking to one of my other buddies, like, you know, on Thursday night. You know, he's actually a Cowboys fan, and he and Tyron Smith is obviously out for the season for them. And Stephen Jones is so kind of he let La'el Collins walk for $2 million above the salary above the hard cap. He didn't want to take that exception. Yep. And I mean, and then he was like, you literally could have had La'el Collins be like your starting kind of like your anchor in lieu of Tyron Smith, right? And I mean, it's really, and now obviously I think La'el's on what team? He's on the Vikings. I'm not sure where he's on right now, what team he's on.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I forget where he is.
Yeah, but you know, he I mean it's really hard to find linemen of starting caliber. So I really feel like the Niners should obviously pick up the phone, call JC, call the Patriots, see what they would give for Isaiah Wynn, because if there any indication of anything, I mean, it's just our line is not in sync. I mean, they're really going to need to, like, you know, figure it out quickly, you know, because we're only 2 weeks away from the regular season opener. I mean, it's I mean, I'm not sure what more needs to be said, you know? So.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna make any moves, man. They're gonna sit still here. They're gonna just hope this line figures it out, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But I guess Shanahan's hoping that Trey has this, you know, quick decision. Like, he's talked about it, that Trey is a quick decision maker. He's a good, you know, he has a good mind to go with the talent. So hopefully, you know, Trey kind of, it's going to be a rough 4 weeks, man. Let's just put it that way. He's that, like, if Trey is horrendous these first 4 weeks of the regular season, it's okay. He's learning, yeah. And you'll see him pick it up. So like, I would caution all Niner fans out there, don't get like, oh man, Trey Lance is a bust. He can't do shit after the first 4 weeks. Don't get into that mindset. He'll be there. Don't worry. Trey Arias here. He's gonna put it together. Like I would say, don't panic, right?
Absolutely. And obviously, you know, I mean, echoing the guys who play in the game, obviously Sherman for us, Tony G, I mean, they know better than anyone, and they all felt the same way. So there's a lot to be said about that sentiment. Exactly. There's some standouts, obviously, you know, Samuel Womack basically in the secondary, they continue their stellar play. I mean, Samuel Womack, he forced an interception. Demore, obviously, you know, just going up against Collins, who had 2 touchdowns on the night. And, you know, obviously, like, you know, our secondary, I mean, they're making plays, they're flying around, they're just getting to the ball. I mean, that's definitely something of promise. And obviously, linebackers, even without Dre, even without Fred, I mean, they were still obviously, you know, balling up the run. And, you know, it was, I think ultimately the starting front four or the secondary's front four of our defensive line is kind of struggling. That's why, you know, the Texans were able to run the ball so effectively on Thursday. But I do think that our secondary, you know, this new incoming group is going to be something to watch this season. So
yeah, I agree. The biggest thing is, you know, no Jimmy Ward. I think Jimmy Ward's going to go on IR and he's going to miss the first 4 games of the season.
Right.
So that's just something to keep an eye on. You know, is it really going to be 4 games? It's going to be out longer. Let's hope it's only 4, but that's I think they're going to, after they cut it down to the 53, then they're going to put Jimmy Ward on the IR and he's like set to miss the first 4 games. So
yeah.
But they signed, was it Tayshaun Gibson? I think Tayshaun. Yeah. So he looks like he could kind of come in and play a little bit for Jimmy Ward while he's out. But yeah, you know, Samuel Womack looked great. Secondary looks great. So, you know, that's promising. I think, did Armstead play Thursday night? I forget. Did he play?
No, I think Armstead's still out.
Yeah. So, I mean, just not having the full line there that on you know, Thursday night, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. That line's going to be a beast, man. And, you know, Drake Jackson looks like he'll come in, kind of be a situational pass rusher. But I do expect him to have some Aldon Smith-like, you know, output this rookie season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Aldon Smith, I mean, he definitely has the intangibles, you know, kind of like the size and the speed and the, you know, it's just strength. I think Javon Kinlaw, depending on how healthy he stays this season, and obviously, I mean, if anyone has seen the Javon Kinlaw Grant Cohn interview, go watch that. I mean, geez, that is like
that was.
Yeah, geez, that was like the biggest meltdown I've ever seen on like, or just like the most like aggressive kind of outside Sherman going on like I remember was it 8 years ago when he went on first take and he basically called Skip Bayless a what do you call him a cretin, right? A cretin, and then he's
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and he's from Stanford, he'll destroy you. The Javon Kinlaw just went ham against
Yeah.
Grant. So
Yeah.
I mean that was awesome. But yeah, I mean I'm hoping that obviously Drake obviously and McCurry Ball, right? He also another great rookie coming out, in the linebacker core. Like he looked good. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of great players, a lot of great incoming new players coming on the
Yeah.
so a lot to
Exactly.
look forward to. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Another guy I want to talk about is Jordan Mason. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
looked
Jordan
good,
Mason looked
man.
great. Yeah.
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 I don't know if they'll be able to kind of sneak him onto the roster or sneak him onto the practice squad, but he kind of showed up, man. And I kind of like him. I don't know. I feel like Trey Sermon might be on the bubble here.
Yeah.
After
No,
that.
trade. And I hate to say, because I mean I was kind of high on Trey heading into this new season, but I mean it just he hasn't shown anything in the preseason to kind of really say, okay, he earned a spot, right? I mean, and that was
Nothing,
what
yeah.
I thought he would come in with kind of that mentality of like, I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity, and then I'm going to basically make it so everyone knows like who I am after every snap. And he just, I mean, it was nothing was there to really kind of definitively say, yeah, this guy deserves a roster spot. So
Yeah. So, I mean, keep an eye on Jordan Mason. He might be kind of the next Raheem Mostert type undrafted dude, come in, kills it in Shanahan's system. So,
yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about we both picked the Broncos to win the Super Bowl after that Bills game. Are you on my last episode? I felt like I'm walking it back a little. How do you feel about the Broncos against the Super Bowl?
I'm still with it, man. I'm still
Okay.
sticking to it. It's preseason. They'll be fine. Not everyone's showing everything in the preseason, but I think the Broncos will, you'll start to see it come together in the regular season for them. But let's see. I mean, maybe after week 4, I'm walking it back. But
yeah. I mean, the only reason I'm saying is because obviously first year team, some key players that we talked about last time are out. And you still have the Bills, and they are the Super Bowl favorite for a reason. They showed it on that preseason game. We'll see if they carry that over to the regular season, and then obviously, like you said, after the first kind of quarter of the season, we'll kind of know who's kind of in, who's out. I mean, even then, I mean, obviously it's a long season, right? It's a 17-game season, so I mean, we're not really going to know until probably midseason, about who's really in, who's really out. So, but I mean, hopefully they can get it together. I really think. I mean, obviously I'm not a Broncos fan, but I really think it would be great to see Russell win it, just because, just stick to the Seahawks. So, I mean, that would be awesome, because I don't see the Niners. I mean, there's too many new, fresh, kind of what we've seen these past three weeks. There's too many new, fresh kind of, faces, and too many kind of like, variables that are, I mean, question marks that really kind of, I can't definitively even say that, we're favored in our own division, honestly. I mean, obviously we have 100%. The Rams in our division. And so, I mean, I think, we have a chance of making a wild card spot at best, kind of we talked about last time, maybe 10-7, maybe 9-8 is good enough to get the wild card. I don't know. But, I mean, I do think that, the Broncos, on the other hand, do have veterans and do have guys returning who've been in that system for some time. Only thing, obviously, first year head coach, Nathaniel Hackett. So, same issue, and we'll see. That's pretty much it. We'll see. So,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think what's going against the Broncos is they're playing in the toughest division in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, the AFC is like, if you look at the AFC, man, it's kind of stacked. It's like,
stacked,
wow.
Top and bottom.
It's like,
top and bottom.
Top to bottom. It's like, wow. Like they're going to be like 2 or 3 really bad teams in the AFC. But then after that, it's open, man. It's an open conference. Like it's crazy how stacked like some of these divisions are. Like you have obviously the AFC West, but the AFC North, right? You got the Bengals, you have the Steelers, you have the Ravens, you have the Browns. That's another tough division right there. The AFC East is also looking pretty solid with the Bills, the Dolphins, with the Patriots. We won't talk about the Jets. And then right, like then outside in the South, you got the Colts. The South might be the weakest one, but you got the Colts, and then maybe the Titans or Texans come on up there, but definitely not the Jaguars. So.
Definitely not.
Like Jaguars, Jets, still the bottom feeders of the AFC, but after that, man, it's a pretty solid conference. Like it seems tougher now than the NFC.
No, and you're right. And I mean, speaking of the Jets, right? I mean, obviously, what we talked about earlier about the offensive linemen, kind of and retaining those assets, like they let Laken Tomlinson walk, because of the fact that the Niners weren't willing to match what the Jets were willing to offer him. And I mean, I understand obviously because we had to get Deo's extension done, right? But I mean, Lake Tomlinson's, like because you're the one who brought up on the last episode we were here, like, we missing Tomlinson is just kind of like, dude, like, it's just like that it's his presence is being felt, like it's an open hole, and we haven't really been able to solve for it. Outside of center, outside of the other kind of positions we have online. So, I mean, I really hope that they figure out, and then like if they're staying pat, so be it. But let's see. I mean, if this line can figure it out, I mean, again, but I really think that there's something to be said about retaining your quality, returning 4-year starting offensive lineman in the NFL, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it came down to a cap game there for them, right? They just, I think they wanted to, but they just didn't have the room. Jimmy's still on the roster. I mean, they could have gotten creative if they really wanted to and, pushed money out, but I just think they decided, hey, that wasn't the value that they wanted for Laken Tomlinson. And they were like, well, we drafted Aaron Banks, so we're going to try him out. I think that really was the thought process. Like, hey, we've seen something in this guy, and he's going to cost us, 75% less what we're going to pay Laken Tomlinson. So let's see. Right. And if it's a bust, it's a bust, but at least they're not, paying Laken Tomlinson. What do you get paid? 18 mil a year? Something like crazy like that?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Something crazy.
Yeah. So I think that was their rationale, right? Because I mean, it's not a bad way to build a team because you're going to have, obviously the Debo extension, you're going to have a Bosa extension. You're going to have to start paying these guys that are truly superstars. And so to invest in an offensive lineman that, great starter, but he's not a superstar, right? He's not the guy that brings in the fans. So I think that's the Niners approach is like, well, we got to pay the guys that, are the big name talents. And they're probably thinking long-term, like, oh man, if Trey gets there, he's going to be someone we have to pay. And Bosa's probably next year, man. So Bosa's going to get a bag, man. He's going to get paid. So
paid money.
Yeah.
Paid money.
Yeah.
And, I think you're right. I think, obviously from a long-term perspective, like I think it's a smarter move because you can always draft offensive linemen. Obviously Aaron Banks is a high draft pick. This is his first year. But, and I mean, the free agency market, you can always sign offensive linemen too, right? I mean, but let's see. I mean, hopefully, this line gets together. But, let's I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about fantasy. So I had my draft on Thursday. And so let me actually pull up my draft because I'm in 2 fantasy leagues in ESPN. I'm in ESPN Plus league and just a regular standard ESPN fantasy league. So I'm going to pull this up. And so we're gonna give me a draft grid.
Let's do it.
All right. So where are we? Here we are. My team. Okay. So my starting QB is Lamar Jackson. Travis Etienne Jr. is my starting running back. My second running back is Kareem Hunt. Michael Pittman Jr. is my starting receiver. Devontae Adams is my second starting receiver. George Kittle is my starting tight end. Jerry Jeudy is my flex. My defense special teams are obviously the Niners, right? And Justin Tucker is my kicker. So
who is your second wide receiver?
Second wide receiver is Devontae Adams.
Okay, and number 1 was who?
Michael Pittman Jr.
Okay, all right. Okay, not bad receiving core there. I'd give you a solid B+ there.
B+, all right.
B+. The only pick I would be like, I'm not sure about Jerry Jeudy.
Right.
As a flex guy, I'd probably opt for a running back at a flex spot, even if it's like a later running back RB2 at a flex versus Jerry Jeudy. But other than that, pretty solid lineup there, man.
Pretty solid. Okay, then let's go for the bench. All right, so Trey Lance is my quarterback. Christian Kirk is another kind of flex or kind of bench receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is my other backup receiver. Naeem Hines is my other running back. Noah Fant is my backup tight end. Mostert, like we talked about, is my other kind of running back, and then Marvin Jones Jr. is my final kind of.
Is this a full PPR league?
Yeah, PPR. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I was like, man, this guy's going wide receiver heavy, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then maybe not as bad.
Yeah.
You got some wide receiver potential there on the bench. One of those guys could take off and go into like a wide receiver 2 status there. So I think decent bench. Trey, I like Trey. I like you picked up a bunch of receivers. Mostert's, he might be a guy you cut later on if he doesn't kind of get into that rotation there.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think he will with Mike McDaniels there. So it's going to be a 1-2 punch of Chase Edmonds and Mostert, but I don't know if he has the volume there to be on your roster, but we'll see. We'll see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Raheem Mostert was the guy who helped us get to this game. I was there for it. So, I mean, maybe I'm still running on that high. I think he's going to have a bounce back year, but I mean, we'll see, right? And I do think kind of what we talked about Christian Kirk. I think he's gonna help Trevor Lawrence kind of develop into a much better quarterback this season. I think Noah Fant, we'll see how he does because I don't know who's throwing him the ball, but I mean, there's gonna be a lot of like
Geno Smith. It's
yeah,
official.
Geno's throwing, but Geno's actually looks surprisingly good in some of these preseason games. I just think that Geno's gonna have to focus on kind of play action and stop trying to make plays happen on his feet.
Yeah, according to Pete Carroll, they have 2 QB1s. Before they only had 1 QB1, now they have 2.
Isn't that giving like Jim Harbaugh vibes? Like back when we have both guys with a hot hand, so we're gonna look right now. Colin has a hot hand.
Except it's Geno Smith and Drew Lock. Like let's be real, dude. Come on.
Not even close. What's funny? Jalen Rose. I remember back on ESPN First Take when the whole QB controversy happened 10 years ago, right? He was saying he's like Harbaugh has us talking about these guys like as Joe Montana, Steve Young. And now we've went so far down the ladder in Seattle. Now we're talking about Drew Lock and Geno Smith, like they're Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Like not even close.
It's not even close to that. Yeah, exactly. It's not even close to that. Like Pete Carroll, calm down, dude. Calm down. Like you have at best maybe 2 QB4s. Let's calm down.
Exactly. I don't. And what's funny? I saw a sign on Seattle's last preseason game. The guy was holding up a sign. He said, "We need Jimmy G freaky fast." That's what he said. And I'm just like, why didn't they even like express any interest at all with Jimmy? And I think
I think Seattle wants him, but I don't know what the holdup is. Like maybe Niners are just hesitating a little.
And it's funny. The commentator, I don't know who the commentator was. Actually, the commentator was Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit was basically saying like, what everyone else has been saying, like Shannon Sharp and everyone. Why don't the Niners, Lynch and Shanahan, kind of work with Jimmy to restructure his contract and basically keep it as an insurance policy in case Trey struggles, early on in the season, like we talked about, and what could possibly be, the outcome of that new line, right? And essentially, then what that had me thinking, what if they restructure his deal and then basically, if Trey's balling out, they can just ship him somewhere else for super cheap, like then that way they absorb the $27 million dead cap, if they have to, and then he's basically, he's a much more viable trade asset, as opposed to like, but obviously you don't want to eat that $27 million, right? It's just like
I think that's what it is. They don't want to eat the 27 mil. And I don't know how much Jimmy is willing to kind of negotiate that down. He's like, why will I restructure when y'all can just release me and I'll get paid, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it's Jimmy or what it is. I mean, but I think Jimmy's gonna have to be like, he's gonna get released, right? And he's gonna lose that money. So I think maybe he does come to the negotiating table and work something out with either the Niners, or he's like, you know what, I'll get released, sign a cheap backup deal somewhere else. And I mean, he got paid his first like 3 years with the Niners, so maybe he's not too. He got paid big money. So now it's not big money anymore apparently, but he did get paid big money at that time. So I don't know what Jimmy's thought process is. Is he just not ready, or we'll see. We'll find out. I think I said last time, I was like, man, I'd be shocked if Jimmy's on the roster by end of August, and he's still here. So he's still here. I'm shocked, man. I'm shocked that he's there. We didn't work out a trade, but he'll probably get cut in the next couple of days if that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I actually went the other way before we had our episode. 4 weeks ago, I actually said I don't anticipate Jimmy G going anywhere because of the reasons you just cited. The cap space. His unwillingness to not, and I mean, honestly, he shouldn't be able to part. Anyone who makes money, right? NFL, right? I mean, you shouldn't have to sacrifice your salary, right? But essentially, like, as fans, and as fans of the team, we want what's best for the team, right? So we're just like, okay, like, but then it's funny. I think I was watching Shaq the other day. He was talking about the whole Ben Simmons debacle, right? And he said Ben was fucking the money up. And Shannon Sharp was on First Take the other day. He was talking about LeBron like taking less money for Lakers because I'm a Lakers fan, and then he said, LeBron, don't you take less money? And so, I mean, like, I guess from an athlete's perspective, it's like, well, why should we take less money? We've given you our blood, sweat, and tears for X amount of years. We've given you outcome. Jimmy, obviously, he didn't bring home the kind of the final outcome, like the rings, but he was able to give us kind of some pretty good deep playoff runs. But at the same time, like, to your point, and obviously too, I just think for his trade value and for his market value, if he restructures his deal, it's going to help him so much more in the long run, because then he's basically playing or betting against himself at that point. And if he plays well anywhere, then that sets him up for an even longer extension down the road. And there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback right now. Like, I mean, I'm not sold on Baker Mayfield in Carolina. I'm not sold on, obviously Seattle, like we talked about, right? Houston, Davis Mills, even though Davis, played all right, against us. I mean, there's still a lot of football played. I'm not sure if Davis Mills is really a starting quality quarterback in the NFL, So there's a lot of destinations that could use Jimmy G. So, I mean, if he was willing to kind of, eat up, some of that money and just, be kind of, put the team first, that's going to help him, pay dividends down the road.
Agreed.
So
I think it's just, the NFL contracts, they're a little strange. So I don't know if it's like NBA is like fully guaranteed, stuff like that. But NFL is a little different, right? And
yeah,
so I think let's see, let's see what Jimmy's contract is structured like. So he gets a signing bonus. Let's see. So I think if even if he gets cut, he still collects that like $8 million signing bonus.
right.
So he
Yeah,
still gets paid 8 million, but then he loses the rest of that money. So I think might be in Jimmy's interest if he's like, oh man, if the Niners release me and no other team's willing to sign me for more than like 10 mil, why not just like take my guaranteed money from the Niners, restructure it down a little to like, what, a 12, 13. But I don't think the Niners are interested in doing that. I think they're like, well, if we keep Jimmy here, we're gonna start dividing the locker room. We're gonna have some guys that are like, oh man, Trey sucks, and he's all helping us win games. Right. I think they want to just be like, we're all in on Trey. Jimmy's not here as a distraction. And that's kind of where the Niners are at. I think that's pretty much what Lynch and Shanahan said, is like, we don't want Jimmy to be a distraction to Trey.
I was watching Joe Montana cool under pressure on Peacock, and during the 90 to 91, 92 season, they had the same exact kind of approach.
Yeah.
Connor Policy and Seifert had the same approach. They're like, yeah, Joe, like, you can basically just do whatever you want. You just don't come in the film room, or if you want to come in the film room, just sit in the back and just, be quiet. Like you can't suit up for practice. You can't do anything. And then Joe basically said he had so much free time between like going in like Candlestick and then coming out, that he would just that he went to San Jose and he got his pilot's license. he learned how to fly a plane. Like, I mean, I wonder if Jimmy's doing something like that right now. I don't know, but I mean,
Who knows what Jimmy's doing? Well, probably we have a good sense of what Jimmy's doing. He's probably out doing things.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think that's the approach. So that's why I don't think you see Jimmy back. Like I know he'd be a good backup quarterback, but I think it just divides, the team. It just divides them. Because they're going to be guys, if the Niners start, let's say, they're like 1-3 in the first 4 games. People are like, well, put in Jimmy. We know he can win.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it might be heading. So I think Jimmy will be gone before the first game of the season.
Right. I think that's ultimately kind of what I'm predicting. And now let's go ahead and give my other fantasy team a grade. Let me get.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. So this is my ESPN Plus league. Let's get it real quick. Okay, it's refreshing the player data. So that's one league. Here we go. It is there, Minnesota. Okay. So my starting QB is Jalen Hurts. Derrick Henry is my running back. Josh Jacobs, Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Darren Waller, Jalen Waddle, Colts defense special team, and Matt Gay. And then
and this is full point PPR?
Yeah, PPR.
How many teams in this league?
Let me check. All right, hold on. The league has 1, 2, 3, 10 teams.
10 teams. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't think I like this team as much as your other team.
Yeah.
I give you about a B minus.
B minus. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm not really feeling the running backs there. Especially Josh Jacobs as your RB2.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little tough to swallow, RB2, but I'll let you. Well, give me your bench.
Yeah, give me the bench. All right. So the bench: Miles Sanders, Juju Smith-Schuster, G. Wilson. I don't even know who this is. P. Freiermuth from Pittsburgh.
Who's G. Wilson?
I don't even know. From New York. Garrett Wilson.
Oh, Garrett Wilson. Okay, the rookie.
Yeah.
The wide receiver. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then Treylon Burks from the Titans, Michael Carter from the Jets, and Kirk Cousins as my bench QB.
Is this a keeper league later or no?
I don't know if it's keeper league. Check. Okay.
If it's not a keeper league, then interesting choices of a lot of rookies there on the bench.
Yeah.
But potential. I still stick with my B minus grade there.
Yeah. Then, I mean, the
reason why who's on your running back? Miles Sanders, man. I don't think that guy's even is going to start for the Eagles anymore. I think they're all in on Kenneth Gainwell right now.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I mean the reason why this draft was so, and I'm not making excuses, but I basically just had like the ESPN like kind of like auto draft, like kind of just like do like that, and then I wasn't paying attention. I was like whatever, and then I was like okay, whatever. I mean, the other one I actually drafted myself. That's when I was just
got you. Yeah. And so sorry, tell me your RB1 and RB2.
Let me get it up again. So let me switch over to my ESPN Plus league. So RB1. Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, man. Even Henry. I mean, he's a good running back, but
he's regressed.
I think Titans are gonna gonna kind of offload some of his work.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to. He's been a workhorse, and so he's starting to feel that toll, I think, and you're going to see it this season. And I think Titans are going to manage kind of his carries. So he may not have that volume, and he's a volume guy. So
It's funny you said that. I was reading the American Fantasy article. I think it was, I don't know if it was PFF or whatever, but they were talking about kind of, obviously Derrick Henry's production over the last couple of years and how it's kind of like, teetered off a little bit, right? And obviously, I mean, like, he was on the trajectory to make the Hall of Fame. He was on that trajectory to make the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, right? But last season, right? I mean, he kind of declined. The team is obviously, it's so well balanced on both sides of the ball. He doesn't need to be just the workhorse anymore, right? They have guys. But ultimately, I think, to your point, I think Derrick Henry will probably, at this point, the Titans will probably have to, kind of manage him. He's going to do kind of what's that word? Load management. That's the word, right?
Load management.
Load management,
exactly.
right? Yeah. Yeah. And so that's
starting to see that in the NFL. Load management, man. It's
yeah. I mean, Kawhi Leonard basically just permeated throughout the whole league.
Yeah.
So
now it's trickled down to the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously Derrick Henry is their, main source of offense, but I think they're really excited about this rookie. I think Hassan Haskins, is he a rookie? Yeah. So I've heard he's gonna kind of eat into Henry's workload. He's a big dude. He's like 6'2", 228. So he can kind of take some of Henry's like more bruising carries, the short yardage stuff. We'll see. Maybe the Titans keep him fresh enough and he can kind of be that same Derrick Henry. So I mean, Henry is solid, but I don't know. The Raiders are being weird with Josh Jacobs this whole preseason. So it's like, first they're like, Josh Jacobs they're like, we'll see. Maybe Josh Jacobs won't be RB1. And so I would definitely go out and pick up Zamir White and put him on your bench just in case Josh Jacobs has a terrible start to the season, and then Zamir White is an RB1 at that point.
Yeah.
But so I would just have a backup plan in case Josh Jacobs fails.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm probably going to need to make some moves in this league anyways, because I mean, the only reason why I think it's like more week to week, and I should be in any fantasy league, but I'm looking at Derrick Henry's week 1 match against New York. Yeah, I mean the Giants. I mean it's the Giants, right?
Yeah,
I'm looking at it from that perspective. Okay, they're playing the Giants. He might pop off, or he might just maybe touch the ball a few times. Yep. And so we'll go from there. I think Josh Jacobs. Again, to that point, week 1 matchup. I'm not sure actually who I'm playing. I get up again. Thought I had. Were they playing? 1 second. Let's see. We are in this team. Lee, Minnesota, H2H, points, PPR, ESPN Plus. Yeah. So. Yeah, they're playing. Oh no, they're playing Chargers. Never mind. Okay, no, we definitely have to make some moves. So Zimmer White. So
just have him on your bench, man. Just he's a Josh Jacobs insurance. That's what you want. Like if you got Josh Jacobs, just have Zamir White as a Josh Jacobs insurance, because they got rid of Kenyon Drake. So
yeah, no, they
White's
did.
Already our running back behind Josh Jacobs. So that would be my advice.
The Raiders team is actually looking kind of pretty decent so far in these last couple of games of preseason. I mean, Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr, we'll see how they do in the first year. I mean,
don't show love to the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm not showing love, I'm just, I'm not predicting them to go any further than they did last year. I just think that, maybe DC might develop, underneath Josh McDaniels as opposed to kind of, under Gruden, and I'm not sure who the coach was before Gruden, but anyways.
I think to your point, the Raiders could. They have a decent chance getting into the playoffs there in the AFC. They look pretty good on both sides of the ball. So obviously this is just preseason. Let's see how they do week 1 against the Chargers. Let's see, maybe that will be a high scoring game. And then maybe the Raiders are legit with Josh McDaniels. Maybe Josh McDaniels has figured out how to become a head coach. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. A lot is, you can't, the thing about preseason, like, and I was talking about this with my other buddy, it's like, it's so hard to kind of like measure, like sometimes you do have, it is telling, like when obviously 10 years ago when Russell Wilson was drafted, he played all like 70% of the snaps in preseason, and he outplayed Matt Flynn, there's a lot to be said about that, then he obviously, became the next coming, right, of QB, and he outplayed the kind of the multi-million-dollar free agent acquisition, but there's still obviously a lot of guys. Like example, Womack, right? Womack outplayed Jarquez Denard, right? So obviously they cut Denard. Now Womack is going to be our starting corner, and he's proven so far, and like what I've seen, that the guy's going to fight every matchup he has. He's going to fight every time he gets on that field. So I mean, you're right. It's kind of it's difficult to measure, but you know, you can tell sometimes if there's a blue chip prospect, you know, coming out.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put stock in terms of teams' performances, but definitely looking at like individual
Exactly. Individual performances.
individuals, like, you know, people that are, you know, playing a lot of snaps, a lot of minutes, things like that. That's what you got to really focus on and see like who are these guys that are going to be future starters here in the league.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think that's so yeah, my fantasy grades B+, B-. You heard it here, folks, from Mr. Fantasy Pros Extraordinaire. When is your draft for your league? And
yeah, we do most of our drafts Labor Day weekend.
Okay, so literally like right before the season starts.
Yeah. Let me tell you how many drafts I got coming up.
Oh my gosh, how many leagues are you in?
That's a good question. Let me see.
Okay.
I'm in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7. I'm in 7.
Oh my
I'm in
gosh.
7 leagues. This is a lot. I had to take it down a little bit this year. So
Take it down. So what's your average?
Man, I probably play in about 9 leagues on average.
Oh my god.
And probably one year I played in about 12 or 13 leagues.
12 or 13 fantasy leagues.
12 or 13 fantasy leagues, man. Yep.
How do you even manage that?
You just do, man. You just do. You gotta. I mean, it was a little bit easier for me before. It was just like, you know, on my way to work, I was just like listening to some podcasts. And when I got to work, I was making my lineup changes real quick in the morning. I was like, all right, let's get this out of the way. And then I was doing my work. But that's kind of how I manage. Like, you got to be on a daily. Some of these leagues I'm just helping people versus like I'm a co-manager versus like an actual manager.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of kind of that stuff. But I'm in multiple different types of leagues as well. Like last year, one of our leagues, we tried something called a vampire league, which was interesting, but you have to have a really engaged, you basically have to have all owners engaged. So basically what the vampire league is one person is a vampire. So basically that means they don't draft. They start basically with this, you know, the crumbs that are available on the free agents after the draft. And then if a vampire beats his matchup the next in that week, then he steals a player from that team. And so, but it works if everyone is kind of like on it and trying to really like, you know, manage their lineups. But if one owner messes up their lineup, then the vampire becomes too strong. Or if you're as the vampire, you're not really checking, it doesn't work. So it's an interesting format. We didn't go back to it, but it's still, you know, something we tried it out to see how it worked. But you know, you have to have basically like 10 to 12 engaged guys. Like, so it doesn't work if you have like even one guy that's like, oh yeah, oh man, I forgot about it, I didn't check for a few weeks. It doesn't work, right? So, so that's how many leagues I'm in. I actually did draft a league. It's let's see, I did have one draft. Let me tell you what this is. We're a 12-team league, half-point PPR. We play with the super flex, which means you can put QB in as a flex spot. So wow. Yeah, the QBs went fast in this draft, man. They went fast. Let's see, I'll tell you my lineup here. I got Dak Prescott at quarterback, Mike Evans at receiver, Deebo Samuels at receiver, Dalvin Cook at running back, Bryce Hall at running back, Cole Kmet at tight end, Travis Etienne Jr. at my super flex. And then let me tell you the bench here. I got Rashad Bateman, Damian Pierce, Tua Tagovailoa, however you say his name, we'll just call him Tua, Drake London, Kenneth Gainwell, Jacoby Brissett, and then kicker Dustin Hopkins, defense Bengals.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's pretty
This
good.
This is also a keeper league. So I kept Deebo for a 6th-round pick.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I think you know, it's good that you have Travis Etienne Jr. and obviously like I think the question mark I have is Tua, because I mean I don't know if Tua will be good enough. I mean, I think Mike and Dan will help him tremendously. You know, Jalen Waddle, obviously, right? I mean, but we have to see. I mean, that's just kind of I'm just not sold on Tua personally. That's just me. You know, I mean, I'm not.
No, I see that. I hear a lot of that. People aren't sold on Tua. The problem is in this league, like Trey Lance is going in the 4th round,
right?
Because it's super flex. So
yeah, exactly.
I kind of I had to take Dak in the 5th. Like yeah. I don't want to take Dak in the 5th, but in this kind of league, you have to take Dak in the 5th.
Yeah.
And then I kind of was like, oh man, there's just so much talent, and I kept like going in on running backs and wide receivers. I was like, oh crap, I forgot to draft another quarterback. And then my choices were like Tua, Marcus Mariota. I was like, all right, between the two, I'm going to take Tua because at least he has some potential upside here. And then Jacoby, well, I initially drafted Deshaun Watson, but I was like, oh, I drafted him to be a keeper, and then I dropped him and picked up Jacoby Brissett. And then I'll add Deshaun Watson later so I can keep him again. So
Yeah.
I did something because like the way the keepers work here is like it's based on where you drafted that person. So I was like, well, I can draft him, drop him, and then pick him up again like halfway through his suspension and have him as keeper for next year. So that was the thought pop. So but Jacoby Brissett is there. Like it's like I'm telling you, the available quarterbacks are like Mitch Trubisky, and that's it. Like that's the only starting quarterback out there right now. It's
oh my
insane.
God.
That's how crazy this league is, because you can basically have two quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if you have that super flex option, you can literally just put anyone there who's a dual threat and just basically kind of run up those numbers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I mean, yeah, I mean, but it's funny actually. You mentioned Mr. Trubisky and you mentioned Dak. I forgot. Obviously some other standouts in the preseason. Devontae Turpin, the USFL MVP, had two kind of punt return touchdowns. Two punt return touchdowns against the Chargers, right? In week 2, and then. Kenny Pickett has obviously led the Steelers to I think back-to-back wins in the fourth quarter so far in the preseason. So I mean, there's obviously a lot of intrigue around the league, not just with the Niners, but a lot of new incoming kind of fresh faces that may definitely shape the landscape of the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the Cowboys defense special team, they're not really highly ranked on any fantasy board. I'm not sure why, but it's one of those things.
They're not that great. That's why. Let's just put it that way. They're not that great. They're average.
But I mean, in their division, wouldn't you expect them to kind of get put some points? I mean, last year they kind of did fairly well in that division. Obviously Diggs, having his all-time season, but obviously Micah Parsons, right, coming off the edge. You also have like DeMarcus Lawrence, right, and then you also have the linebacking core, right, outside of Micah, right. So I mean, they had some players. It's just
yeah, they have they have some players. I think the problem is sometimes the Cowboys end up in shootouts, and so
right
that doesn't make their defense that valuable. Like when you're in a shootout, and so let's see how their defense plays out. But I wouldn't mind the Cowboys defense, but you just can't count on them every week.
Yeah, no, definitely can't. Okay, cool. I think so that's the fantasy. The Niners. I guess anything that stood out to you, preseason and fantasy, anything else?
No, man. I think we covered it all here. We'll try and chop it up after I do all my drafts.
Yeah, exactly.
But most of so this is the only draft I do that's a snake draft. Pretty much all my other drafts are auction drafts. So
okay.
Yeah, those take a while.
And what's your average finish? Because for me, I finished third place, and then so I mean, how do you usually finish?
Oh man, I could probably go check my record, but I think, it's hard to keep track because there's so many leagues.
Yeah.
I would say, it's tough. Probably my average is probably fourth. Is my average.
Fourth. Yeah.
If you're taking the average across all 9 leagues, there's
all
some
leagues. Yeah.
There's some leagues where I'm just like, I don't really care. I'm already out of this. Forget this.
Exactly. But, for me, it's even worse. I'm probably like around 6 if we're adding every single league I've been in. And
last year was good to me. I think I had 2 first place finishes, and there's a league where I've won back-to-back years, and so it's and I won it 3 out of like the 6 years I've been playing in that league. So I dominate that league. So we'll talk about that next time once we draft.
Yes, we will. No, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So you guys heard it here first. Sulman's drafts are Labor Day weekend, so that's not this Monday, but the following Monday.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So and that's literally right before the season starts. So it's gonna be perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the time because you don't want these preseason injuries ruining your draft, man.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if someone actually took the Niners special? Or actually, I did. So never mind. I took Niners as a season defense, and Jimmy's out, and Eric is out.
Yeah, but it's like what if you drafted let's say this is an example, like you drafted like last season this happened to me. I drafted I was in that Trey Sermon hype. I was like, oh wow, yeah. Shanahan's really talking him up. He's killing him. He's like doing well in the preseason. Drafted like Trey Sermon in like every league, and dude was but turns out like a couple of days before week 1, they're like Elijah Mitchell's a starting running back. You're like, what the heck? Like, why did I draft Trey Sermon? Damn it.
Yeah.
There was just a week before the start of the season, they're like, actually, it's Elijah Mitchell who's going to be the lead back. And he really impressed. But he was kind of doing well in preseason. But Shanahan was like, no, it's Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon's great. And then it's like, what are you talking about, dude? He's a buzz. You're the one who made him a buzz. So, anyways, there's always stuff like that, right? There's always stuff.
Yeah,
like
so many. I mean, because obviously, like, coach, it's really, again, preseason is really it's not a good litmus test, and obviously, coaches want to talk up their rookies and and talk about the trust they have in them, how they expect them to perform, But then obviously, with that comes the expectation, right, from everyone, from us fans, that hey, like, yeah, I mean, if you're talking him up, we're trusting you, as a head coach to basically this guy should perform, So, I mean, it is what it is.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts? So obviously we're going to reconnect on Labor Day weekend, but any final thoughts for?
Yeah, just wanted to show you this, man. Trey area.
Oh, there
right
we go.
here.
There's Trey area, baby. Yeah.
Do it. There we go. We'll end it on that.
Yeah. See, my shirt's 3 years old. But I mean, I'm still wearing it because I don't care. And if you see over there, actually, if you can see those 3 rings, 1, 2, 3, those are actually our NFC Championship rings.
Nice.
The 2 are from 2012, and the one in the middle is actually the 2019.
Nice. So, there you go. Yeah. There you go, man.
There we go. So yeah. I forgot to mention also there, Gore. Gore actually, you already know this, but anyone who's listening, Gore actually has the record for most games played as running back. And I just came across that piece of memorabilia like a few weeks ago. So that's up there.
Nice, man.
With my half from the NFC Championship game. So we'll see if we can do it again. I mean, obviously, I'm not this season, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully in the coming years. Man.
Over the coming years. All right, brother. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. You guys follow us on Spotify, follow us on Twitter at DGOG Podcast, follow us on Anchor, follow us on Google Podcasts, obviously YouTube, right? If you watch this video. And that's it. Thank you all for tuning in.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too. Take care.